At T-Mobile, our critical mission is providing unparalleled 5G coverage for when connectivity is mission critical. Introducing T-Priority, America's best 5G network experience for first responders, even in times of congestion. More capacity, faster speeds, better coverage. T-Priority from T-Mobile, built for tomorrow's emergencies, ready today. Discover more at t-priority.com.
For qualifying organizations on eligible rate plans, coverage not available in some areas and may be impacted by emergencies.
This episode is brought to you by Peacock. The new Peacock original documentary, Matthew Perry, A Hollywood Tragedy, dives deep into the beloved actor's rise to fame and his tragic death. 5 people, including Perry's personal assistant, 2 medical doctors, and an alleged Hollywood drug dealer known as the Ketamine Queen, were charged with conspiracy to illegally provide Perry with the ketamine. Explore the details of the case in this heartbreaking special, streaming now only on Peacock.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to Big Mad True Crime, where we get big mad over true crime. I'm your host, Heather Ashley, and today's case is out of the Sacramento, California area. Small talk sucks, so let's dive in. Christie Lynn Wilson grew up in San Jose, California, where she was known for having a huge heart. She loved animals and always tried to see the best in everyone. Her mom described her as a driven, organized, and goal-oriented person, while her best friend said that Christie loved to joke around and have a good time. She was a lot of fun to be around. At some point, Christie's parents divorced and her mom, Debbie, remarried a San Jose police sergeant named Pat. Pat grew close to Christie and her sister, and he cared a lot for both of them. As a stepdad to 2 girls now, he knew it was really important to prepare them for anything, so he spent a lot of time teaching them self-defense tips. Pat made sure they knew what to do if they were ever attacked, skills they'd carry with them throughout the rest of their lives. After high school, Christie attended Chico State University, graduating with a degree in production operations management. She later moved to the Sacramento area, where she worked in several high-tech positions. Christie stayed close to her family and friends, making it a point to stay in touch through phone calls and emails. In her free time, Christie loved going to the casino to play blackjack. A friend later told Forensic Files she was a natural. She was very sharp with numbers. She's mathematically a whiz in her head, and she can just look at things and figure them out real quick. The odds, the percentages. She had studied how to play the game, how to become better at the game, and she was actually a pretty good gambler. But gambling wasn't always a positive in Christie's life. It eventually became a problem, which is something a lot of people do struggle with on a daily basis. According to the National Council on problem gambling, also known as gambling addiction, involves behavior that damages someone's life or relationships. It can disrupt their job, home life, and mental health. The council estimates that 2.5 million U.S. adults meet the criteria for a severe gambling problem each year, and millions more face mild or moderate gambling issues. So Christie was definitely not alone in her struggle. In 2004, Christie started dating a man named Danny, who she met at a casino blackjack table. Not long after their first meeting, Christie and Danny moved in together. Christie was a bit of a romantic. She dreamed of getting married, having children, and building that white picket fence life. Her family wanted those things for her too, but just not with Danny. According to Oxygen, Christie and Danny's relationship started off smooth, but after they moved in together in Sacramento, things turned very tumultuous. Their relationship became volatile and on again, off again. It also turned physical on multiple occasions. When Christie visited home, her mom sometimes noticed bruises on her, and on at least one occasion, a fight between the two resulted in the police being called. That call happened in March of 2005 after Christie and Danny got into a physical altercation over a cell phone. Danny called the police and both of them got arrested. In the end, neither was prosecuted, but the incident highlighted just how toxic their relationship had become. Sometime after the March 2005 incident, Christie lost her job in Sacramento due to a crash in the high-tech field, so she decided to move back in with her parents in San Jose, although it doesn't appear that she fully cut off her relationship with Danny at that point. While in San Jose, Christie started seeing a psychiatrist and was ultimately diagnosed with major depression, which she was prescribed medication for. Court documents reveal that by September of 2005, Christie was determined to make positive changes in her life. She reached out to a self-help organization's stress center after seeing one of their commercials on TV. During her call, Christie opened up about her struggles with depression and anxiety, explaining that they had affected both her career and her relationships. She told them, "I have to get help. This has affected my career and my relationships." Hey guys, I know you guys love true crime, but does listening to this show ever make you wish you had a little bit more privacy? Because same. I don't know whether it's my work on the show or outside of the show, but when the sun goes down, which is really early these days, you can bet that every single blind in my house is down. My son's room actually has this one set of blinds that has stressed me out since we moved in because they just don't lay right, and it has been on my list to get these replaced forever, but I've held off because honestly, I'm just not handy at all. But that's where our next sponsor comes in, 3 Day Blinds. There is officially a better way to buy blinds, shades, shutters, and drapery, and that's 3 Day Blinds. I mean, you can buy pretty much everything else online these days, so why not add those to the list? 3 Day Blinds is the leading manufacturer of high-quality custom window treatments in the US, and right now, if you use my URL, 3dayblinds.com/bigmad, they're running a buy one, get one 50% off deal. 3 Day Blinds has local, professionally trained design consultants who have an average of 10 plus years of experience, which is exactly 10 plus years more than I have. You don't have to be the wizard. All you have to do is let them be the experts and guide you to the right blinds for you, all from the comfort of your own home. You just set up an appointment and get a free, no obligation quote the same day. It seriously does not get any easier than that. And do not worry, because you don't have to do the measuring, the heavy lifting, or the installation. It is all taken care of. That is literally what they're there for. When I tell you I was so relieved that there was finally a company designed to make this process easier, it was a breath of fresh air. I'm not a handy person at all. I mean, seriously, my measurements come out different every single time, and I can't explain that, but it's true. But frankly, it doesn't matter because 3 Day Blinds truly handles the entire process for you. I was scrolling their Instagram the other week and they have some really cute options, and at this point, I'm kind of getting inspiration to change up my entire first floor and not just my son's blinds. 3 Day Blinds has thousands of options to choose from to fit any vibe or budget, and with actual samples, you won't be guessing what they'll look like. 3 Day Blinds has been in business for over 45 years and has helped over 2 million people find the window treatments of their dreams. Right now, get window treatments that fit your budget with 3 Day Blinds. Head to 3dayblinds.com/bigmad for their buy one, get one 50% off deal on custom blinds, shades, shutters, and drapery. For a free, no charge, no obligation consultation, just head to 3dayblinds.com/bigmad. One last time, that's the number 3, DAY, blinds.com/bigmad. Around the same time Christie sought help, she started searching for a new job and landed multiple interviews with Zoom Eyeworks in Berkeley. Her first 2 interviews with the company went pretty well, and on October 3rd, she emailed the vice president to express her continued interest. A third and final interview was scheduled for October 7th, but Christie never made it. On October 4th, 27-year-old Christie drove to Sacramento to pick up the last of her belongings from Danny's house. As far as I can tell, she was ready to completely end that relationship and start new. According to court documents, that day, Christie exchanged voicemails with her mom and emailed a photo of her beloved cat dressed up for Halloween to several different family members and friends. That email was the last communication that anyone ever had with her. At some point before 7 p.m., Christie went to Thunder Valley Casino in Lincoln, California, which is about 30 miles outside of Sacramento. Thunder Valley is a massive casino with over 250,000 square feet of gaming space and more than 3,400 slot machines and 110 table games. It was the kind of place that Christie did love to visit. Meanwhile, Danny attended a family get-together, which he didn't invite Christie to. When he got home later that night, Christie wasn't there, so he invited a friend over to hang out. Then at around 10:30 p.m., Christie called. She told Danny she was finishing up at Thunder Valley Casino and would be back soon, but Christie never came back. According to Gold Country Media, when Danny woke up the next morning and Christie wasn't there, he was pretty concerned. Throughout the day, he called her over and over again, but she didn't answer. He left her multiple messages, including one where he said, "I think that you're not okay. I don't know where you are. Please call me. Let me know what's going on." Danny also called hospitals and jails, hoping to find her, but Christie wasn't in any of those places. The next day, Danny drove to Thunder Valley Casino and found Christie's car still in the parking lot. He went inside and asked the casino staff to check her player's card and even had her paged, but there was no sign of her anywhere. After that, he called one of Christie's close friends, who said that she hadn't heard from Christie since earlier that week. Danny was now out of options at this point, so he called Christie's parents and told them that he was filing a missing persons report. After that call, both Danny and Pat, Christie's stepfather, contacted police. An officer responded to the missing persons report at Danny's house. He spoke with Danny, who recounted the details of Christie's disappearance, how the last time he heard from her was at Thunder Valley Casino, and how he later found her car in the parking lot, but Christie wasn't there. According to forensic files, the officer looked around Danny's place and found no signs that Christie had planned to leave for an extended period of time. I mean, her toiletries, clothes, and medication were all still there. As you'd expect, Danny was immediately on the police's radar as a suspect in Christie's disappearance. There were several suspicious factors. I mean, he waited 48 hours to report her missing, and the couple had a documented history of domestic violence. Police couldn't rule out the possibility that a domestic dispute had turned deadly, and they wondered if Danny had used those 48 hours to cover his tracks. But there were some leads to follow before going down that path. After speaking with Danny, the officer went to Thunder Valley Casino to follow up on his account. There, he located Christie's car in the parking lot. He also contacted the casino's surveillance supervisor and provided photographs of both Christine and Danny to check against the casino's security footage. According to court documents, the supervisor was able to find video footage of Christine from the night that she disappeared. At 1:30 a.m. on what was now October 5th, the footage showed Christine walking toward a car in the casino parking lot with an unidentified man. As they walked, the man put his arm around Christie, but she brushed him off. The two walked out of the camera's view into the darkness, but moments later, there were flashes of light, 4 bursts from a car's headlights, then 2 more. The flashes were consistent with the pattern caused by a key fob unlocking a car. 3 minutes and 41 seconds after the flashes, a set of headlights came on in the same area. A white car was then seen driving out of the parking lot. The surveillance footage never showed Christine returning to her car or her car leaving the parking lot. It was as if she had vanished into thin air, but as we know, that doesn't happen. The officer followed up with casino staff, but there were no reports of a struggle or any calls for help from the parking lot that night. So the question remained, where was Christie? After the officer found Christie's car at the Thunder Valley Casino and reviewed the surveillance footage of her leaving, the case was handed over to the Placer County Sheriff's Department. A large-scale search for Christie began, and search and rescue experts, cadaver dogs, and volunteers combed through every area they could possibly think of, but there was no trace of Christie anywhere. Meanwhile, Danny remained the prime suspect. The lead detective later told Forensic Files that he was convinced Danny was responsible for Christie's disappearance, and Christie's family felt the same way. The detective said, "I felt so strongly that it was Danny. I literally searched his entire complex, close to his house and even the rivers behind it. Danny seemed to be the only person with a motive to harm her. There's a whole bunch of motives with a boyfriend. She was totally committed to being out of that relationship. But things weren't that simple. Danny was fully cooperative with law enforcement and appeared genuinely worried about Christie. He also willingly allowed police to search his apartment, car, phone, and computer records. Despite the intense scrutiny, police found no evidence linking Danny to Christie's disappearance. Still, there were details about his behavior that just didn't sit right with investigators. Police learned that on the night after Christie went missing, Danny had dinner with friends. When they offered to help search for her at the casino, he said no. And when law enforcement searched Danny's car, they found a stun gun inside. While none of that directly tied him to Christie's disappearance, it did keep him under suspicion. But Danny wasn't the only person of interest. Police were also investigating another possible suspect, that unknown man seen on surveillance footage walking out of the casino with Christie. The police wanted to identify the man, according to court documents. After reviewing additional surveillance footage, they found that earlier in the evening, the man had used a player's card at a slot machine. When police asked the casino to identify the person tied to that card, they learned that it was a man in his early 50s named Mario Flavio Garcia. With that lead, investigators reviewed more footage to track Mario's movements before he and Christie walked out of the casino together. Through the footage and interviews with witnesses who appeared in those videos, police began piecing together the events of that night. After arriving at Thunder Valley Casino on October 4th, Christie sat down to play blackjack. At around 9:30 p.m., Mario joined Christie at table 36, where they remained for about 3.5 hours. Witnesses described their interaction as friendly, and Christie appeared happy and was drinking throughout the evening. During their time together, witnesses said Christie mentioned that her boyfriend had hit her earlier that morning and pulled her hair. She even raised her arm to show a bruise. Christie also talked about losing her job and being excited about the possibility of getting another one that would allow her to travel the world. Court documents revealed that throughout the night, Mario bought Christie a glass of wine, and another man at the table bought a bottle of wine to share. As the evening progressed, Christie, who had been losing at blackjack, borrowed money from Mario as well as another man at the table. But as the night wore on, Christie's behavior shifted. She became verbally aggressive and caused a scene at the table, which was completely out of character for her. And I want to pause here to note something really important. Police would later testify that based on witness descriptions of Christie's behavior at the casino, she was likely exhibiting symptoms of being drugged with a date rape drug. Surveillance footage didn't show anyone slipping anything into Christie's drink, but that doesn't mean that it didn't happen. Witnesses reported that several times throughout that night, Mario tried to convince Christie to leave with him, but she wouldn't. Finally, just before casino staff were about to eject them for their disruptive behavior, Christie and Mario did leave together. At 1:13 a.m., surveillance footage captured Mario and Christie walking into the casino parking lot, and after they walked out of camera view, Christie was never seen alive again. According to Oxygen, when police dug into Mario's background, they found that he was a well-liked member of his community and a soccer mentor. He had a stable job as a senior technical manager at Sutter Health Information Technology, earning a six-figure salary. On the surface, Mario just didn't seem like the kind of person who would hurt Christie, so with that in mind, investigators shifted their focus back to Danny. They questioned him for hours, but Danny maintained his innocence, and there was still no evidence linking him to Christie's disappearance. Without any new leads on Danny, police decided it was time to interview Mario. Hey guys, this episode of Big Mad True Crime is brought to you by Graza, my new favorite olive oil. It's fresh, it's never blended, and it comes from a single type of olive oil, the Picual, straight out of high-end Spain, where half of the world's olive oil is produced. So why Graza? Well, it is really simple. There are no mysterious blends. It's seriously just one olive from one region. That means it's a fresher product without any mix-ins of lower grade or unknown oils. Also, the packaging is top-notch here. They come in squeeze or spray bottles, so there's none of that drippy mess. You just aim, squeeze, and go. There are 3 types of Graza to choose from. Their newest, which is Frizzle, which is perfect for frying, crisping, or grilling, and has a smoke point of more than 490 degrees. Then you have the Sizzle, which is an everyday cooking oil, perfect for roasting, marinating, or sautéing. And then you have my personal favorite, which is the Drizzle. It's a bold finishing oil you can sprinkle on salads, dip bread into, or anything your heart desires. My husband is an olive oil snob, and I never knew that was a thing until he started geeking out over every single olive oil he could find. I thought we had tried everything at this point, but then came Graza. It is now the only olive oil he'll use, and he just made some marinated chicken the other night. That was some of the juiciest and most flavorful chicken I have ever had. And also, fun fact, I actually had some genetic testing done by my doctor earlier last year, and some of my markers were less than amazing. I mean, whatever, you get the genes that you get. But he actually recommended I take a dose of olive oil per day, and I have yet to find a better tasting option than Graza. And guess what? We have a deal. You can get 10% off your first order on Graza's site, and I 10 out of 10 recommend trying their trio, which is all 3 of their squeeze bottles, Sizzle, Frizzle, and Drizzle, so you're set for all of your cooking needs. So head to graza.co and use Big Mad to get 10% off of Trio, which includes Sizzle, Frizzle, and Drizzle, and get to cooking your next chef-quality meal. On October 9th, they went to his house and told him they were investigating a missing persons case. They explained that Mario had been seen with a missing person, Christie, on the night that she vanished. Mario appeared visibly nervous and glanced toward his house as he spoke. He admitted that he had been at the casino and claimed he lost a significant amount of money. Mario mentioned that he didn't want his wife to find out because he'd be in big trouble. When it came to Christie, Mario confirmed that he had met her that night, but insisted it was purely coincidental that they left the casino at the same time. He claimed that on their way to the parking lot, Christie realized that she had left her cell phone and went back in to look for it. Mario's story raised a few red flags, but the main thing that stuck out here was the fact that Mario had noticeable injuries to his face. One detective later told Fox News Digital he had an injury on one of his eyes, like he had been hit or scratched. He had pretty significant scratch marks on his face in a linear direction downwards. They appeared to be very similar to fingernail scratch marks based on the spacing and the direction. These injuries were obviously suspicious, so after speaking with Mario, detectives returned to Thunder Valley Casino and asked staff to re-review the surveillance tapes to verify if Christie had come back inside to look for her phone. That's when they discovered that Christie's phone had been left back in the casino. It was under the blackjack table. However, surveillance footage showed that she had never returned to get it. The casino then handed Christie's forgotten phone over to police. At first, it might seem odd that the casino hadn't turned it over sooner, but it's likely they didn't even realize that it belonged to Christie. They may have just assumed it was a random lost phone and that the owner would eventually return for it. But when police specifically asked about a cell phone during their follow-up visit, staff realized that it could be Christie's and gave it to officers. According to court documents, after obtaining Christie's phone, detectives returned to Mario's home to gather a more detailed statement. When they asked Mario what car he had driven to the casino that night, he hesitated and asked to call a friend who is an attorney. Once the attorney arrived, Mario pointed out his car and agreed to drive it to the station where he would consent to an interview. Once at the station, but before the interview began, Mario's attorney friend said, "Looks like somebody smacked you under your eye." Mario explained the injury away, claiming he had an accident involving a tractor and a tree, as well as a rash from poison oak on his face. During the interview, Mario told detectives he had gone to Thunder Valley Casino on Tuesday, October 4th, after work. While there, he met Christie. Mario said he probably flirted with her, although he couldn't be certain because he'd been drunk. Mario said Christie talked about having mental health struggles and issues with her boyfriend, even showing him bruises on her arm. He noted that Christie kept losing at blackjack, so he and another man at the table loaned her some money. Mario confirmed that he and Christie left the casino together, but claimed that she wasn't with him when he exited the parking lot. He said he turned left out of the lot, took Highway 65 to Interstate 80, and then continued on Highway 49 until he got back home at around 2 a.m. After getting home, he stayed in bed until he left for work at 8:30 a.m., arriving in time for a 9 a.m. meeting. According to court documents, before ending the interview, detectives asked to photograph the small black eye that Mario had. While his attorney gave permission, it was Mario who refused. Detectives warned him that his refusal could be used against him, but Mario still said no. When they attempted to take a photo anyway, Mario raised his hands to block the camera lens before leaving the interview room. After meeting with Mario, police wanted to try and corroborate as much of his story as they possibly could about where he went after leaving the parking lot. Mario said he exited the casino by turning left out of the lot, heading towards his home. But when police reviewed the footage again, they saw his car turn right, heading in the opposite direction. This was the first of many chips in Mario's degrading story. At this point, police felt pretty confident that Mario was a strong suspect in Christie's disappearance, and as they dug further into his past, a disturbing pattern started to emerge. Mario had a documented history of brutally assaulting women. In 1978, when he was 27, he began dating a 26-year-old woman named Wendy. Wendy later told 48 Hours that at first, Mario seemed supportive and caring, but it didn't take long for his temper to surface, and it became explosive when Wendy tried to end the relationship. Wendy said that Mario grabbed her, forced her into his van, and drove off. When he stopped, he grabbed her neck and threatened, "You do anything, I will take your head and I will smash it." He then demanded she take her clothes off. Wendy refused and fought back, clawing, scratching, and doing anything she could to escape. Mario responded by choking her until she thought she was going to die. Then he raped her. Afterward, Mario drove her to his apartment where he escalated his violence further. He pulled out a gun, held it to her head, and pulled the trigger. When it didn't fire, he told her, "Well, it wasn't loaded this time, but I can come and get you anytime I want." He then raped her again. Afterward, he made himself a sandwich, ate it, and then drove her home as if nothing had happened. Wendy immediately went to the hospital and Mario was arrested. However, the justice system epically failed her when the prosecution offered Mario a deal. He pleaded guilty to a single count of assault with a deadly weapon and was sentenced to serve only 18 months of probation. Wendy had a terrible feeling that Mario's violence wasn't going to stop with her, and tragically, she was right. Not long after his conviction, Mario started dating another woman, Lynette Smith. Like Wendy, Lynette experienced Mario's abuse. On Christmas Day of 1979, Mario and Lynette spent time with Lynette's mother, Violet Davis. After dinner, the three got into Lynette's car, which was a white 1979 AMC, and drove away. Later that night, police received a call that the AMC had plunged into the Oakland estuary, which was a body of water near the Oakland airport. A detective later recounted the incident to 48 Hours, saying, "The witnesses said the car pulled over to the right shoulder. They drove by and the car accelerated to a high rate of speed, and then there was a ledge, like into the pier, and the car shot off that ledge out into the water, and that's where it sank." When first responders arrived, they found Mario in the freezing water, alive but injured. Violet, however, was found dead inside of that submerged car while Lynette was missing. Rescue boats, helicopters, and divers all searched, but there was no sign of her. She was presumed dead. Mario told police that Lynette had been driving the car. He claimed that after they hit the water, he panicked and managed to unbuckle his seatbelt and open up a window, which he was able to escape out of. He assumed Violet and Lynette would also make it out. Mario was taken to the hospital, but he ended up leaving against medical advice before police could question him. The next day, he retained an attorney, and detectives were never able to interview him. In mid-January, Lynette's badly decomposed body washed ashore about 500 yards from where that car had gone into the water. Despite the suspicious circumstances, police were unable to determine what really happened that night, so Mario walked away from that tragedy without any consequence and continued his life once again as if nothing had happened. It seems like Mario stayed out of trouble after the incidents with Wendy and Lynette, at least for a while. He got married, had 2 children, and settled into a remote home outside of Auburn, about 15 miles from Lincoln, where Thunder Valley Casino is located. Mario worked as a senior technical project manager at Sutter Health Information Technology, and for several years, he was assigned to an electronic ICU project where he helped work on a system designed to allow remote monitoring of multiple hospitals from one single central location. When police investigating Christie's disappearance spoke with Mario's co-workers, they uncovered some interesting details about the week of October 3rd through the 7th of 2005. That week marked the kickoff of a major upgrade to the ICU project, a critical time when Mario was expected to be highly focused and on top of things. At first, everything seemed normal, but after Christie disappeared on October 4th, Mario's behavior took a major turn. On Tuesday, October 4th, Mario worked at the data center from 10 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. According to court records, at 5:25 p.m., Mario sent an email to his supervisor, and in the email, he expressed frustration with a coworker and mentioned he was having some tequila tonight. That evening, Mario went to Thunder Valley Casino, and no one recalled seeing any injuries on his face. The next morning, however, on October 5th, Mario was scheduled to be at the data center to meet and escort vendors who were making installations for the project. He was expected to be there all day, starting at 9 a.m. with a meeting. One of the vendors arrived at 9:05 a.m., but Mario wasn't there to let him in, which was unusual since Mario was known for being punctual. When the vendor called him, Mario said he'd been caught in an accident and was running a little bit late. Mario finally arrived at the data center shortly after 10 a.m., and his coworkers immediately noticed that he had scratches on his face and a bloody eye, something that hadn't been there the day before. When asked about it, Mario explained that he'd been working in his yard with a tractor and that a branch got caught in the tractor cage, causing his injuries. Mario's odd behavior didn't end there, though. He left work at 11:14 a.m., far earlier than usual, and he didn't check in with his supervisor before leaving, which was really out of character for him. According to court documents, the next day, Thursday, October 6th, Mario called in sick. Then he visited the UC Davis Ambulatory Care Center, complaining about the pain in his left eye. He told the doctor he'd fallen from a 15-foot willow tree after a branch broke. Mario seemed visibly upset as he described his injuries. He had blurry vision in his left eye, a swollen lower lip, and multiple abrasions on his face, torso, and arms. He was treated with antibiotics for a possible skin infection and referred to an eye doctor for further evaluation. However, when police later spoke with the nurse who treated Mario, the nurse said they didn't believe his injuries were consistent with a fall from a tree. Later that day, Mario saw Dr. Barnes, who is an optometrist, who noted that Mario's main complaint was blurred vision. Upon examination, Dr. Barnes observed multiple facial abrasions, a blood blister in Mario's eye, and a significant infection along the margin of his eyelid. Interestingly, Dr. Barnes believed the blurry vision was caused by something unrelated to the infection. The nature of the eyelid injury, particularly the degree of pus formation, it's gross, I know, didn't appear consistent with contact from a plant or tree branch. Dr. Barnes later told police that Mario's injuries were more consistent with being clawed by fingernails and punched in the eye, not by a tree branch. Court documents report that on Friday, October 7th, Mario worked from his home. This arrangement had not been pre-approved as required by his employer. Then, early on Sunday morning, Mario went to Long's Drugs, where he purchased several anti-itch creams and laundry detergent. Mario, who didn't have regular garbage service at his home, also made a trip to the landfill to dispose of trash. Later that day, detectives visited Mario's home and spoke with him for the first time. After learning all of that information, police were convinced that Mario was the one responsible for Christie's disappearance. They got warrants to review his phone records, and what they discovered only added to their suspicions. At 7:51 a.m. on October 5th, just hours after Christie went missing, Mario made an outgoing call to his wife from his cell phone. However, cell tower data revealed that this call wasn't made from Mario's home as he had claimed. Instead, it pinged from a location to the north. This contradicted Mario's story that he had gone straight home from the casino and stayed there until after 8 a.m. Hey guys, as many of you know, I have a ton of kids. With that, there is a constant struggle of which technology to give them access to while still protecting them from everything that comes with it. I want to be a cool mom, but not at the expense of keeping my kids safe. With them getting older, it was time to talk about finally getting them a phone, and that's when I found Gab, which has been such an exhale for me as a parent. Gab is the leader in safe smartphones and watches for kids, teens, and tweens. There are no social media apps, no internet browser, and you can track your kids with GPS. Gab devices were built specifically for kids and teens and are the way to keep your kids safely connected with the tech phones and watches that kids actually want. There's a clean music streaming app, which my kids absolutely adore, And for the older kids, there's the Gab Phone 4 Pro with hundreds of screened third-party apps that can be installed at parents' discretion. There's also unlimited talk and text with Gab Messenger, which is the first messaging and video calling app designed with kids' safety as the top priority. Gab Messenger uses smart filtration, which blocks high-risk messages and content with nudity before it ever reaches your kid's phone. There's a parent companion app too for easy controls and to help keep parents informed. As my kids get older, they are all over the place, whether it's at school, sports, or hanging out with their friends. And as a mom, I want to know where they are at all times, and I also want to be able to get in contact with them whenever I want. So some of their friends had obviously already gotten some regular phones, but we just weren't ready to expose them to all the risks that come with that, so we went with Gab. Gab has been absolutely incredible. I mean, the kids feel cool, but it's that cool without all the scary stuff. And that's taken a lot of stress off of me. So parenting win there. Seriously, I cannot recommend Gab enough. It's been the most responsible way that I have found for parents and kids to embrace technology together. Protecting your kids has never been easier. For the best deals, sign up to Gab today. No contract required at gab.com/bigmad. That's Gab, GABB.com/bigmad. Gab.com/bigmad. Terms and conditions apply. On December 10th, police got another search warrant, this time for Mario's car and his home. They chose not to serve the warrants immediately, though, but according to court documents, that same day, Mario worked a half day before taking the afternoon off. He also returned to his eye doctor, reporting that he felt a lot better. This time, he claimed the abrasions on his arms were caused by poison oak, and he also sent an email to his workplace stating that he had poison oak. On Tuesday, October 11th, Mario went to work in person. At some point during the day, he emailed a request to work remotely, citing personal issues that prevented him from coming into the office. At around 5:17 p.m., Mario spoke with his supervisor, who noticed welts on his forearm covered with white lotion and that he was starting to grow a beard. That same day, the search warrants for Mario, his home, and his car were executed. Cadaver dogs were brought into the Garcia property, but they didn't indicate anything of note. Inside Mario's home, police found printouts of documents explaining the penal code regarding search warrants laid out on the kitchen table. When police searched Mario's 2004 Toyota Camry, they noted that it appeared unusually clean. The car had clearly been shampooed and vacuumed recently, but despite this, investigators were able to obtain critical evidence, particularly in the front seat area. A brownish stain was found on the front passenger seat, along with bloody fibers in the seam between the seats and blood spatter on the passenger side door. Experts determined that the spatter was consistent with a medium to high velocity incident, indicating a traumatic event. More evidence was found on the exterior of the car. A hair was wedged in the front passenger door handle. The hair was in the catagen stage, meaning it was transitioning from growing to dead and required some force to be removed from the scalp. That strongly suggested that Christie had likely been abducted and forced into Mario's car. Both the blood and the hair were collected and sent for forensic analysis. In the trunk, police found that the liner had been removed. However, they did discover a collapsible baton, which is considered a deadly weapon. This was a significant find because Mario was legally prohibited from possessing such a weapon due to the fact that he was a felon, which he earned himself the title of in the 70s. Very fucking brutally, might I add. The discovery of said baton alone was enough to get another warrant, this time an arrest warrant, for Mario. However, investigators decided to hold off on the arrest, hoping to get enough evidence to charge him directly in connection to Christie's disappearance. The next day, Wednesday, October 12th, Mario telecommuted to work and participated in a morning conference call. He emailed his supervisor explaining that he was dealing with problems caused by being in the wrong place at the wrong time, and that he had retained an attorney, but later that day, Mario also returned to the medical clinic, once again complaining of that poison oak. On Thursday, October 12th, Mario worked at the data center. According to court documents, the following day, Friday, October 13th, Mario called in sick, claiming he was experiencing medical problems and went to the hospital for chest pains. That same day, his supervisor emailed him requesting the return of a work laptop. Mario responded via voicemail stating that he would comply. While Mario's life was falling apart, police decided that it was officially time to act. They played the card that they'd been holding and arrested Mario on the charges related to the collapsible baton. During his booking, an officer noted scratches and bruises on Mario's chest. When asked about them, Mario claimed that they were from poison oak that he'd gotten on Sunday. Then, as the officer prepared to note the date, Mario backtracked, saying he'd actually gotten the poison oak 2 weeks ago. When detectives attempted to formally question him, Mario invoked his right to a lawyer, and the interrogation ended there. As Mario sat in jail on the weapons charge, investigators continued processing the evidence obtained from the search warrants, evidence like his computer, which showed alarming searches. He looked up the term forensics multiple times and visited a web page about toxicology tests for date rape drugs. Given Christie's unusual behavior at the casino that night, investigators started to suspect that Mario may have drugged her with a date rape drug. The forensic testing led to even more damning evidence. The hair found wedged in the exterior front passenger door handle of Mario's car was conclusively matched to Christie, so the police conducted a second search of Mario's car and made another disturbing discovery. A human hair was found in a tape lift from the trunk area. This hair was in the anagen or active growing stage, meaning it would have required force to be pulled from the scalp. Testing confirmed this hair also belonged to Christie. Another hair was found in a tape lift from the rear passenger floorboard, and while mitochondrial DNA testing couldn't definitively confirm it was Christie's, the results did not exclude her as the source. The car was then examined by the Department of Justice, and inside, 5 small stains on the rear seat tested positive for blood. Court documents report that these stains were a mixture of 2 individuals, both Mario and Christie. Another cutting from the rear seat revealed the same exact DNA mixture. Additionally, a swab from the rear interior driver's side door handle showed Christie as the major DNA contributor and Mario as the minor contributor. A swab from another interior door also showed Christie as the major contributor. Based on this overwhelming evidence, police knew that Christie had been inside of Mario's car regardless of what he said. According to forensic files, law enforcement began to piece together a theory of what exactly happened that night. They theorized that after Christie and Mario walked out to his car, Mario slammed her head onto the front passenger door, which caused the blood spatter and lodged her hair under the door handle. He then forced Christie into the back seat of the car and drove out of the casino parking lot, avoiding suspicion. Mario then drove to a remote area north of his home where another violent altercation occurred. During the struggle, both Mario and Christie were injured, leaving behind a mixture of their blood in the car and scratches on his face and chest. Mario ultimately killed Christie and placed her body in the trunk, leaving behind a single strand of her hair. He then disposed of her body somewhere that the police had yet to discover. Police searched for Christie's body, but despite their efforts, they were unable to find her. According to 48 Hours, after 3 weeks of searching with no results, authorities made the decision to charge Mario with Christie's murder. It would be the first no-body case Placer County had ever prosecuted. Christie's mother, Debbie, later told 48 Hours that she was extremely anxious about authorities moving forward without having Christie's body. She feared that Mario might be acquitted and go on to hurt more women. Still, though, investigators pressed on, determined to build the strongest possible case against him. They focused on refuting every aspect of Mario's story. According to forensic files, one major obstacle was that Mario's wife refused to speak with police. This meant that they couldn't confirm or challenge his claim that he'd been home all night after leaving the casino. So authorities decided to test Mario's other explanations, especially the ones about where his injuries came from. They brought in an arborist to Mario's property to evaluate his story about falling from a tree. The arborist did find a broken willow branch, but he concluded it had fallen due to the wind and rain and not from somebody climbing or falling. On his first visit, the arborist didn't find any poison oak on the property. A second trip, however, revealed some poison oak near oak trees, but there were no broken branches to support Mario's claims. Authorities also consulted doctors to determine whether Mario's injuries were consistent with his story. An emergency room doctor reviewed photos of Mario's injuries and concluded that they were the result of an assault, not an accident. The doctor was particularly struck by 4 parallel scratch marks on the left side of Mario's chest and face. The scratch marks formed a distinct uniform pattern resembling claw marks. The doctor explained that such a pattern wouldn't occur from an accidental fall like Mario claimed, but was consistent with an attack during a struggle. The placement of the scratches on Mario's left side was also significant. The doctor noted that if the attacker were right-handed, like Christie, it would make sense for her right hand to claw across the left side of Mario's body as she tried to fight him off. The doctor further pointed out a scratch on Mario's cornea. She believed this was caused by an assault and not a tree-related incident. Additionally, bruises on his arm suggested a bite mark rather than injuries from falling. The lack of injuries to Mario's back also indicated a violent struggle rather than a fall. The doctor was convinced that all of Mario's injuries were inflicted during a violent altercation. She believed that Christie had left a message through those injuries, a message for her family, for investigators, and for forensic experts. Hey guys, who doesn't love to treat themselves? Frankly, we should probably do it more, but sometimes our budgets just don't disagree. But what if I told you you can enjoy a little much-deserved luxury shopping that doesn't make your budget want to cry? Well, that's where Quince comes in. They are my go-to for incredible quality at affordable prices. Quince offers a range of high-quality items at prices that are actually within reach, like 100% Mongolian cashmere sweaters, washable silk tops and dresses, organic cotton sweaters, and even 14-karat gold jewelry. And the best part? All of Quince's pieces are priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands. So how, might you ask? Well, they partnered directly with top factories, cutting out the cost of the middleman and passing those savings on to you. And we're talking good factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices. And of course, they use premium fabrics and finishes, so you truly love each piece you get. My favorite ever zip-up jacket is from Quince, and I have the coziest oversized sweater ever from them that honestly I'm pretty sure every person needs in their life. 10 out of 10 recommend. Even my kids have Quince staples like their flares and youth zip-ups. I mean, they're my kids' go-tos all year round. Give your yourself the luxury you deserve with Quince. Go to quince.com/bigmad for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/bigmad to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/bigmad. This all made a lot of sense when you knew Christie at all. Her stepfather had taught her how to fight back, and Christie had taken kickboxing classes. She knew how to defend herself and wouldn't have hesitated to fight aggressively if she needed to. A dermatologist weighed in as well, telling investigators that Mario's poison oak claim just did not add up. Poison oak causes allergic dermatitis with red lesions and blistering. Bruises and scratches like the ones found on Mario's face aren't caused by poison oak. Altogether, every single piece of evidence helped investigators disprove Mario's excuses and solidify their case against him. In September of 2006, Mario's trial began with a jury of 10 men and 2 women. According to 48 Hours, the jury wasn't allowed to hear about Mario's violent history with Wendy, Lynette, or Violet. However, Wendy attended the trial to support Christie's family. During the trial, Wendy and Christie's mother, Debbie, grew really close. Later, the 2 women began teaching classes together for homicide investigators, using their personal experiences to help others, which I think is absolutely incredible. Because Christie's body hadn't been found, the prosecution's case against Mario relied entirely on circumstantial evidence. They aimed to prove 2 different things. First, that Christie's disappearance meant that she was dead, and second, that Mario was the one responsible for her murder. The prosecution didn't claim to know exactly what happened to Christie, but presented a likely scenario to the jury. They argued that Mario attacked Christie in the casino parking lot, then took her somewhere else. Based on his injuries, Christie fought for her life, but Mario overpowered her. He then murdered her and left her body somewhere unknown. The defense countered by claiming that Mario had nothing to do with Christie's disappearance. They argued there wasn't enough evidence to convict him of murder and even suggested that Christie might still be alive somewhere. They also attempted to shift suspicion onto Christie's boyfriend, Danny. When Danny took the stand, the defense questioned him aggressively, even referring to him as the defendant, which was a deliberate choice, given that Danny was absolutely not the one on fucking trial here. Court documents reveal that Mario also testified in his own dumbass defense. On the stand, he insisted that he did not kill, murder, rape, or kidnap Christie. He denied any involvement in her disappearance and claimed he never fought with her on the night she went missing. Mario maintained that Christie was never in his car and said he couldn't explain how her hair or DNA ended up there. He went on to try and explain away all of the circumstantial evidence the prosecution had against him, but he failed. He stated that washing his car and going to the dump was part of his normal routine. Bad at washing cars. He denied ever having a carpet or rug in his trunk and claimed the collapsible baton belonged to his son as part of his martial arts gear. As for his injuries, he stuck to his story about falling from a willow tree, not even an oak tree. The jury did not believe Mario, and after hearing the evidence, they found him guilty of first-degree murder and possession of a deadly weapon, with an enhancement for being a prior felon. Following the verdict, Christie's mother, Debbie, spoke to reporters. She said, "Justice has been served. It's about time. Now, if he's any kind of man, he'll tell us where he disposed of my daughter." Debbie and her family held out hope that Mario might eventually reveal the location of Christie's body in exchange for a lesser sentence, but that never happened. After his conviction, but before sentencing, Mario sat down for an interview with 48 Hours. Once again, he denied being responsible for Christie's murder. He recounted the same story he had told before. He and Christie played blackjack at the casino and left together after 1 a.m. They walked to his car, but Christie never got inside. And according to Mario, she realized she had left her phone in the casino. They embraced, exchanged a few words, and then parted ways. When asked if he had been hoping to pursue a romantic relationship with Christie, Mario firmly denied it. He said, "No, not at all. I was not trying to get a date from her. I left, and at my age, 54 years old, with a heart condition, taking blood pressure medication, the last thing on my mind is to have sex with anybody. For me, it has to be a planned activity. I am, and I have been, happily married." Mario maintained his innocence, suggesting that Christie might have encountered someone else in the parking lot or that her boyfriend Danny could have been involved. He admitted to cleaning his car after going to the casino, but questioned how police could find Christie's DNA while failing to detect the DNA of his wife and sons. He even suggested that the police had planted the evidence in his car. During the interview, 48 Hours asked Mario about his past with Wendy, Lynette, and Violet. He claimed he never attacked Wendy, insisting that she fabricated the allegations. He said he only pleaded guilty because he felt he had no other choice. Regarding Lynette and Violet, Mario denied having any involvement in their deaths, maintaining that he wasn't driving the car when it plunged into the water. He justified hiring an attorney at the time, saying, "It's the thing to do. It's the legal right of every citizen of the United States, and my attorney advised me not to talk to the police." In January of 2007, Mario faced sentencing for Christie's murder. At the hearing, Christie's family gave emotional victim impact statements, sharing their pain over all of the life experiences Christie would never get to have: a wedding, children, and the simple chance to grow older. Christie's sister spoke about the agony of imagining what Christie must have endured in her final moments, the terror and hopelessness that she must have felt knowing she was going to die. Christie's stepfather, Pat, said he had no doubt that Christie's bravery in fighting back and injuring Mario had saved others. Without her courage, he believed that Mario would have gone on to kill again. Mario also spoke at the hearing and said, "I suppose that at this hearing, I'm supposed to ask for mercy, for forgiveness, and to show remorse. However, I will not do such a thing. I did not kill Christie Wilson. I am innocent, and he can fuck all the way off." The judge wound up sentencing Mario to 59 years to life in prison, 25 years to life for the murder, double due to his prior assault on Wendy, plus 4 years for the weapons charge, and 5 years for the prior felony enhancement. Mario appealed his convictions and sentences multiple times, but each one failed. According to Oxygen, after Mario's conviction and sentencing, his wife and children severed ties with him. Although Mario had been convicted of Christie's murder, her family was still desperate to find her remains. The two lead detectives who had worked on the case from the beginning shared that same desperation. They conducted numerous searches over the years, hoping to bring Christie home and help her family find some measure of peace, but despite their efforts, they found nothing. By 2017, Debbie decided to try reaching out to Mario through a CBS interview. She said, "I now view him as a lost soul, and that I often wonder how he ever became the man he did. If Mario were to pass away with me not having had the opportunity to sit and just talk with him, I know I would forever regret it." Mario learned about Debbie's plea and began writing letters to her and to county authorities. In those letters, he apologized for the pain Debbie had endured, but continued to insist that he wasn't responsible for Christie's murder. In one letter, however, Mario hinted that he might be willing to trade information for an early release from prison. He wrote, "I would give anything if I could go home to die surrounded by my family." For a brief moment, Debbie considered the idea of bargaining with Mario. but then she changed her mind. She later told 48 Hours, "I was sitting there thinking, what on earth are you doing, Debbie? Get a grip. It would be such a disgrace. He will not use my daughter's body as a bargaining chip." That same year, CBS 13's Tony Lopez sent a letter to Mario asking if he would reveal the location of Christie's body. Mario responded once again, denying involvement in her disappearance and writing, "I'm sorry she went missing." Then, in 2020, a surprising lead emerged. One of Mario's sons told investigators that his father had behaved strangely in the days following Christie's disappearance. Mario spent a lot of time on his tractor digging in the yard with what the son described as a crazed look in his eyes. Mario was so focused on his digging that he refused to attend his son's soccer game. Detectives asked the son to go back to the family's former property and point out the areas where he had seen Mario working with the tractor, and in August of 2020, investigators brought in ground-penetrating radar to search those areas. The radar revealed several suspicious spots, so they began digging. And then, finally, they found Christie's remains. Detectives told 48 Hours that cadaver dogs had previously searched the property but hadn't alerted to anything. They noted that while cadaver dogs are a valuable tool, they're not 100% accurate, which is something I think is important to point out here, and there's also a measure of depth that has to be considered. An autopsy later revealed that Christie's hand and nose had been broken. However, no definitive cause of death could be determined. Detectives believe she had likely been strangled, but they couldn't prove it. As soon as Christie's body was found, detectives flew to Arizona to deliver the news to Debbie and Pat in person. The couple was overwhelmed. After 15 years of uncertainty, the answer they had been hoping and praying for had finally come, and that's heartbreaking. Debbie later told 48 Hours that they can now move forward without the torment of not knowing where Christie was. Debbie shared that having Christie back changed everything. She said, "We can grieve the way that we should have been able to grieve 15 years ago. There's a peace about that. I was so blessed to be her mom for 27 years, and I will carry that with me forever." Although Christie had finally been recovered, Mario never fully confessed or explained why he killed her. A detective told Fox News Digital, through some letters that were written by him, he started to divulge a little bit that he may have been somewhat involved, but he never explained why, how it happened, or where it happened. And he never certainly told us that he actually did it, and he never told us where her body was located. In December of 2020, Mario died of pneumonia while serving his prison sentence. Christie's family later shared that his death brought them tremendous peace. For photos pertaining to this case, check out Christie's highlight at the top of my Instagram profile at the Heather Ashley, and join me there when we go live and talk about today's case and all other true crime cases on your mind. If you want ad-free and bonus episodes or early releases when we do series, check out our Patreon at patreon.com/BigMadTrueCrime, where for just $2 whole a month, your episodes are totally ad-free. Or you can sign up on Apple Plus or Premium or whatever they call it. If you're listening on Apple, you can totally see it. If you have a case you'd like to hear covered, please share it with Big Mad True Crime on social media, because all cases are covered by listener request. I'll be bringing you a brand new case next week, and I cannot wait. But until then, we out. All right, guys. I want to do my hot take so bad, but I'm still sick and I'm going to lose my voice. I'm struggling. I'm on the struggle bus. Mario's a fucking piece of shit. Anybody like Mario's a fucking piece of shit. Fucking piece of shit. We can play that over and fucking over. He's a monster. He's what monsters are made of. He's what monsters are inspired from. And I see why Christie's family said that his death brought them tremendous peace. Period. That's a fucking hot take. Fuck this dude. Anyway, you guys, I have to go rest. I love you so much. I love you. Bye.